seats, please. Silence your phones if you haven't done so already. And welcome to our June meeting. Okay, how about that? All right. Welcome to our June meeting. Our speaker this month is Dr. Mike Daniels, and Gail is going to introduce him for us, and we'll get started.
It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Mike Daniels to our meeting today. He graciously consented to come today to swap programs. He was originally scheduled to come in August, and we are very appreciative that he could be here today. Dr. Daniels has served as Water and Soil Conservation Specialist for the University of Arkansas System Cooperative Extension Service for the past 27 years. During that time, Dr. Daniels has developed and implemented innovative extension programs as well as conducted applied research to help agricultural producers and conservation specialists address a problem that we as gardeners also have, and that is soil and water related issues in our homes. His program has emphasized the development of partners to work together to collectively increase knowledge and application of soil and water conservation practices to help improve water quality, soil health, and increase the irrigation water use efficiency and to reduce the nutrient runoff. He is director of the Arkansas Discovery Farms program, where the impact of agricultural practices on water resources are documented on private farms, and agricultural producers are included in the solution process in resolving water-related issues. He also co-leads a multi-state program. It is the Arkansas Soil Health Extension Team, and he serves as chair of a committee called Circa 46, which is a work group of land-grant universities in 13 states down the Mississippi River Basin, and they work with the Gulf of Mexico Hypoxia Task Force. So he has held many leadership positions across the state and across many states, and we appreciate very much having him here to speak to us today. Thank you, Mike.
Well, first and foremost, let me tell you, it is a pleasure and a privilege to be here to talk to y'all today. And it's tough getting older. I've got to put my cheaters on now. And let me get my presentation up where you can see it. Second thing I want to say is, I understand you had a bad storm yesterday. Hail. I just want you to know, you're in my thoughts and prayers over that. But I can tell you're a resilient group. And so that's good. I can empathize with you, though. Several years ago, my wife and I were asked, we had 8 kids from our church going on a youth mission trip to the state of Washington. And 3 of the 8 were our 3 boys. But they didn't have a chaperone for the young ladies. And so they asked us if we would go. And we said yes. And the night before we were getting ready to leave, they called and said, one of the church vans is inoperable. Do y'all mind taking your minivan? Well, we had just bought our first and only new vehicle ever. Had less than 500 miles on it, minivan. And so we took that to through South Dakota. My wife is used to being in charge of all of our travel. When to stop, where to stop. Well, we were following the church van. And the youth pastor was in charge on this particular time. And he called back and he told us, he said, hey, we want to go visit Mount Rushmore. So we're not going to stop and eat lunch. I've ordered pizza. We're just going to pick it up and we're just going to eat in the vehicles. And my wife was livid. Oh, we're not going to eat pizza in this new van. I said, look, you're not in charge on this trip. We're going to stay with them. So we ate our pizza in the van. And later that day, going there, a storm came in. And we had to actually pull off. It was so bad, so windy. And then we started getting hail. We got softball-sized hail. And we had a hailstone about that big come right through our windshield, shattered glass, all in our new van. My wife said something that you wouldn't want to say from church. And I just looked at her and I said, you know what? Eating pizza in our van is not so bad after all. And she is still not forgiving me for that comment. But anyway, I thought y'all might enjoy this. I want to talk, how many of you are concerned about our environment, the water we drink, our soils, the air we breathe, climate change? I see a lot of hands. I am too. I think we have to play a role, all of us, in trying to make sure that we do things that protect the environment. I just think a lot of us, we don't know what to do when we do that. It's difficult, it's hard. But I think master gardeners have a great opportunity, especially in their volunteer projects and at home, to play a bigger role than you think you might be able to, because you have knowledge about plants and soils. And plants and soils are key to keeping our waters clean. And so I think that y'all can play a role, and I want to talk about that a little bit, especially in urban areas where we have urban stormwater runoff. And I'm not sure everybody understands how urban stormwater runoff works, so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to talk about what is stormwater, understanding the impact of urbanization on local hydrology. And let me just say up front, I'm not blaming anybody for issues. I'm not saying it's wrong to urbanize. I'm not saying it's wrong to do things the way we do. But we can improve on how we're doing it. So I don't want you to leave today saying, hey, our city planners are making a mistake or something. That's not my message. My message is let's do what we can to enhance with the skills that we have. And so stormwater management, and then the role of the master gardener. You might be surprised what kind of things that you could do to add to the environment. What is stormwater? This is the water that we have to deal with when we get rainfall. Not all the water is going to go in the soil. Parking lots are going to drain off. Does anybody know where that water drains? You know it drains to storm drain, but where does it end up? Yeah, I'll show you some pictures in a minute. For most people, if it drains out of sight, it's out of mind, and that most people think we're solving a problem by collecting that stormwater. And we are in some ways, but in other ways we're creating a problem. So these type of storm drains that you see here in parking lots, and you can see that has kind of the sheen on it, they're just draining down these storm drains. This is not going to your wastewater treatment plant for treatment. The water that enters off that gets discharged back to some of our local streams. And so you see these pipes coming out here. Water is actually coming back from those parking lots, those impervious areas, back to our streams. And I want to tell you, I got a lot of this from my good friend Greg Jennings, who's an engineer that worked on stormwater all of his career, even before people were even concerned about stormwater. And so I borrowed a lot of slides and a lot of material from him. And part of the problem when we urbanize and we pave a lot of places is we get flooding. Now we could have some flooding naturally, obviously, but we exacerbate the problem sometimes when we put so much paving up and we don't design for it. And so we can get increased runoff, we can get flashy streams, we can get streams that are channelized. And what I mean by that is we no longer have the stream banks we used to have. We have these stream banks that go straight up and down. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And obviously flooding and floodplain filling, and in some cases we very much encroach on our floodplains. And they're there to serve a natural purpose. And you can see scenes like this, and the scene on top, we see a lot of this in Arkansas, don't we? Flash flooding, but sediment-laden runoff. And with that sediment goes plant nutrients and other things. We also can see a lot of oil on parking lots and things. Sediment can come from construction sites, bare land, unstable slopes, ditch erosion. So there's a lot of sources of sediment. We have to remember a lot of that soil is very rich. We'd like to keep it in place because as you go down deeper in the soil profile and you erode that topsoil, you're left with soil that's not nearly as productive or what you would want to work with for flowers and gardens and that sort of thing. This is a typical scene that we see now. This is a small stream in an urban area, and look at the stream bank on the one side. It's straight up and down, it's exposed tree roots, those type of things. This is not a stream that's no longer functioning as best it could ecologically, because there's organisms that need these habitats to live, and they can't live on a straight up and down bank. You'd much rather have a bank that's more sloping with floodplains and terraces, and this has none of that. It has no floodplain, has no terrace. It's just on the one side. And this is what happens to these small streams that once were in a more rural area. And this can happen in rural areas too, with our farming and all that. So it's not to say that it's all urbanization. But when you do urbanize, we put these storm drains in, we put them to these little feeder streams, and we overwhelm them. They weren't designed to handle all that. And then we get this type of stream bank erosion, which is a natural process, but we speed it up. And then we get these streams that don't function ecologically like they should for wildlife and habitat and other things. This is a shot near where I live in Greenbrier. This is at Pickles Gap. They're going to continue to have a problem until they address it, of this stream bank cutting back due to flash flooding and things. And so you don't have to go very far from home to see these things. And it's really a matter of awareness. But I think we've all done this. We've put fertilizer out on our grass, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. But look what we do sometimes when we get it out the road. We either leave it and let it dissolve and move to the storm drain, or we sweep it directly into the storm drain. Anybody been guilty of that? You don't have to raise your hand. I have before I knew better. So I think that's something we have to be concerned about, is that we want to make sure we put fertilizer in the right place and we don't get it into our waterways, because streams like nutrients. Aquatic plants and streams like nutrients too. And if we get too much nutrients in streams, we'll get too much plant growth in those streams. And then the problem with that is those plant material is going to decay at some point. And that's going to tie up the oxygen in the water. And then that's going to cause, it could be as serious as enough to cause fish kills. And this is basically what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico in the hypoxic zone. We've channelized the Mississippi River. In other words, we don't let it flow out to its floodplains, drop sediment and everything in the name of flood control, and we need flood control. But the consequence is any nutrient that gets into the Mississippi River is going to end up in the Gulf of Mexico. And now it drops the dissolved oxygen below levels that most aquatic wildlife, shrimp, other fisheries, they have to move out of that area every summer. And shrimpers and things have to go farther out into the Gulf to make their living. And so, and you look at our watershed land uses, and I think you can see a lot of this. I grew up in Northwest Arkansas. Let me tell you, I live in Central Arkansas now, but when I go back up to Northwest Arkansas, I do not recognize Northwest Arkansas. And it's just development everywhere. And I've seen a lot of that in this Hot Springs area since I've been coming here for the last 30 years. But what happens when we get a watershed like that? Well, if we zone in and we look at that, first of all, we have roads that are impervious. Well, then we have parking lots that are impervious. They're draining through those storm drains to those little creeks. Then we have buildings impervious, and so that water runs off. And if we, even if we have guttering, we're sending that water somewhere to a stream, something to do that. And then we have sidewalks. And before you know it, you have a lot of impervious surface across the landscape. And now you've got a lot more water, instead of soaking into the ground, is running off to these streams. And now you pair that with climate change, where the atmosphere is warming up, it can hold more water. We get more intense rains when it does finally rain, and we get a longer period of times of drought. And so when you look at the development impacts on the water cycle, and we rain on a forested area, you get about 50% goes into the ground, 10% runs off, and the other 40% is lost to evapotranspiration by these trees and plants. Look what happens in the city. Whoops, let me go back. I thought I had a graphic in there. I may have to put my glasses on. Oh, there we go. City, we get about 55% runoff. We only get about 10% to move through the soil. And if you look at agriculture in Arkansas and eastern Arkansas, our soils are so poorly drained, we're very close to being like an impervious surface. We get 50% of our rainfall in eastern Arkansas runs off. It doesn't go into the ground. And so we alter the local hydrology, and we think outside out of mind, and we don't really try to do something to change that. And if you look at what we call hydrograph, and this is just the flow rate of water going through a stream against the time after you've got a rainfall. Well, if you have a forested site like we show in this picture and it rains, we get a hydrograph that looks something like that. It doesn't have a very high peak. The peak is really kind of, I don't know if you can see this or not, but the peak is kind of spread out a little bit. And then if you compare that to what you would see, and so you don't get this rapid movement of water to the stream. But if you look at it in a parking lot situation or impervious situation, you get this. And so what you get in that red line is impervious parking lot. You get a much higher peak, so you get a lot more water moving faster. And that peak is much more narrow, so it's all getting there at once. And then that's why we're having this flooding, is that we get more water. The force of that water, the force of water can be one of the most destructive things that you can see out there. And it can happen on a very small scale, and it can happen on a large scale. And so how we manage our hydrology is important. So you get more runoff. It arrives much faster than in that. And then you can also look, here's some just more pictures of urbanization. Increased discharge, increased peak discharge, which means you're getting a lot more volume of water in a shorter period of time. Increased flow velocities. As you increase your flow velocity, it's got more energy to gouge out stream banks and carry sediment off. And then you have shorter time to peak flow. You get a lot more flooding, less groundwater recharge. And so we have to be cognizant of that. There's just some other things that I think, we have now, these regulations for construction sites that put up your silt fences, but we have to do it properly, and we have to maintain that, or it can overwhelm it. And then if you look at the bottom picture, they had good intentions, but what did the water do? Just cut right under those hay bales. And we see that a lot. And so they have to be maintained. And of course, litter is always a problem in our streams. And this was a city, I'm not sure where it was at. I wouldn't want to embarrass them anyway, but they came up with a solution of reducing stream bank and erosion. They put this in. The problem with this is it will move the water for you, but it has absolutely now no ecological function. You will not find macroinvertebrates and other indicators of a healthy stream in this stream. It's strictly a glorified ditch at this point. Strictly for drainage. And so they've taken away all the recreational and ecosystem habitat here. Managing stormwater, I think we have to start thinking differently. And I think that's where master farmers can come in. And this is a scene on the left. This is what we call a low impact development. We don't put in the big curves and everything on the street and have the sewer drains. We try to keep that road flatter with ditches by the side. And I'll show you a better example in a minute. And then this is actually a rain garden that I helped at the University of Central Arkansas, their biology department, to help students learn about this. We worked together as a partnership, and we put in a rain garden. And that's going to spend a lot of my time today talking about rain gardens. How you capture and slow down the flow to keep it from flooding. You hold that water. You use plants to help and soil to help treat that water. Soil's the best natural filter we have. But if you can't get the water, if it's going to run across the top and not through the soil, then we have some problems there too. So this was a way of, and this is right there on their campus where students could observe it. So low impact development, we need to think different. What do you see when you see a big development go in? They strip all the grass and vegetation off, cut all the trees, because it makes it so much easier to plan and build and do those type of things. But in low impact, we want to minimize that. Low impact, we want to mend the soils that we've cut, because when you cut down a soil profile, you lose all your soil microbiology, you lose a lot of your nutrients. We want to minimize the use of impervious surfaces. We want to promote infiltration and evapotranspiration. And we want the natural hydrology to continue to function. Where we do none of those things, when we're talking about the conventional way of doing it. So you have a conventional, and we're mostly usually used to this, aren't we? You got the nice manicured yards. We all want that. You got the curbs and that sort of thing. But you also have now a lot of, you've increased the probability of runoff going to storm drains, and then any pollutants that it carries get into those streams. You can do low impact and still make it beautiful. And we're talking about aesthetics now, I think. And we see a lot of this. I did live in a subdivision that was fairly new, but we had ditches. We didn't have the street curves. But you can also, instead of landscaping in such a way that water will run off from your landscaping, you can landscape in such a way to capture that runoff and incorporate a rain garden or your landscaping features in with the natural hydrology and help alter that to where you, that's not for me, is it? Okay. All right. Just making sure. So, you know, on this one flower bed, it slopes back to the road. It promotes runoff. But here's a flower bed where they actually took out part of the curb, built down below, put flowers in it. To me, it looks beautiful. Water actually leaves the road, goes into the rain garden, stays there for a while, filters down through the median, and then is discharged on down with pollutants and things being filtered out. Now, I will tell you, rain gardens and those things can be more expensive. And low impact development can be more expensive. And that's why we don't go to it and see it as much. But I think there's going to come a point in time that we're going to want to do these things to enhance our living conditions and those type of things. Some people are going all out. Some businesses, they're putting in permeable pavement. They're capturing rainfall. How many of you grew up, or you remember at your grandparents, did they have rain barrels or cisterns catch rain off the roof? My mom grew up that way. They had rain barrels in every corner of the house. And ladies, this is the only beauty tip I can give you. But my mom always said she always used that rainwater to wash her hair because it made her hair so much softer. That's the only beauty tip I can give you. But so if you want that feeling, put your rain barrel in. And then you can buy them commercially. You can build your own. We've got a fact sheet on how to build your own. Just go to our website and you can find it. Others are doing things like green roofs. They're actually going and plants on top of the roof to help absorb some of that water and let the plants evaporate it out. Another great way to protect our resources. But again, it's expensive. You have to have the right type of roof. But these things are becoming more and more important. I went on a stormwater tour in Portland, Oregon several years ago. And Portland, for all the other problems and issues they have, they're way ahead on stormwater management. They had a lot of these green roofs that people landscape and just made beautiful, but you've got to have the right type of roof. You can't just go do it on any roof. We also have some of this in Arkansas. Has anybody been to the Heifer Project International? Yeah. Have you seen their parking lot? And have you seen what kind of vegetation they use in their around? Those are native species that they put in. Now, some people, native species may not look as good but they provide much better function. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. So it's not just Portland, other places, but you see this parking lot. A lot of people would say, well, they don't maintain their vegetation. No, they're doing that on purpose. They're using these native species to help filter the runoff from their parking lot. They also have a big rainwater, and they've got the tank inside where you can see it, where a big cistern where they catch the rainwater off the roof. This is another shot from Portland, Oregon, where they've taken storm drains, and before the water enters the storm drain, they route it through these flower beds and then into the storm drain. And so it provides beauty, but it also provides a function. And that's the theme of my story today, is to try to get us to think about not just beautifying and making things aesthetically pleasing, but think about how you might be able to alter that and enhance the environment through the use of soil and plants. Because that's nature's way of cleansing itself. You see now, stormwater management has become a big issue. EPA has put out stormwater management. If you're an MS4, a certain size of community, you now have to provide stormwater education. We do that in a couple places in the state. We'd be willing to do it more across the state. But many municipalities have entered a contract with us to help us get resources, people resources, to be out there working on stormwater management. But anymore you see Walmart will come in somewhere and you might see one of these big retention ponds, and you think, well, that's just, why do they need a pond? Well, that's to collect the stormwater, to reduce the flooding. And it's kind of a mitigation type thing. You see these all over the place. This is permeable pavement. It's too expensive for most of us to use for our driveways right now, but it will let water go through. As it's not, it looks like this. So you have areas where plants can grow up. I guess you'd have to mow your driveway here in Arkansas, but it will let water go through. But it is expensive. I'm not trying here to sell it to you. I'm trying to say this may be the future someday. If you go to build a pond anymore for aesthetics, my friend Greg Jennings has taught me that it's good to build these if you're going to construct it in two systems, a forebay and then your pool, your pond area. And you also want to put these aquatic shelves that are shallow water because microorganisms don't like a pond bank that's straight down the same depth across that pond. They need different depths, and you need those shallow depths. But they started putting this in, and so here's the inlet of capturing runoff into a pond into this forebay. Does anybody know what the purpose of that forebay is?
Silt, catch the silt.
It is a way to catch the silted water and let the silt fall out before it enters into the pool. And so,
how are you going to keep the silt from building up?
You don't.
Filling in your forebay.
You don't. Every once in a while you have to go in and manage and take that silt out. So this is, yes, go ahead.
Can you use that silt in your garden bed?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You may not know where it comes from, but it's still a soil-based material. It may be rich in nutrients, but you can use it. You may want to engineer it because a lot of times what you see is your smaller particles, your clay and silt particles. You remember those are smaller than sand particles. It may be a very heavy texture is what I'm saying. And so you may want to mix it with some organic matter. It may be devoid of organic matter, but yeah, you could use that. This is actually on the campus of North Carolina State University. They were having a problem, and they stepped in. That's what it looked like a few years later. You have this forebay, you have your pond back there, and you see the vegetation around it. And this again is what it looked like a few years later. And then you can see, very intuitive. That's silt that has built up behind that. This is at a different location. It's not the same location. But this is where, this is what it's supposed to do. It's functioning the way it's supposed to do. Keep that sediment out of our fresh waters and our ponds. And keep that water quality a little better. Here's a project that was actually done by Master Gardeners. They went in and did stream bank restoration in a park. This was in North Carolina. But they planted plants along the stream bank to beautify it, but also to stabilize that stream bank to keep it from getting eroded. I showed you where it was straight up and down. They planted it and did things, and this was a large project that one of their Master Gardener chapters had in one of their local parks there. I think golf courses have to understand that they play a big role. They're intensely managed, so they put a lot of nutrients and water out on their golf courses. But there's lots of areas on golf courses they could create better hazards. Probably keep people like me from playing golf more. I don't golf at all anymore, but they could be using vegetation to help filter that runoff in their creeks and things. And you don't want so much vegetation that chokes the natural flow, but there are some opportunities there. This is at a rest stop. This is a bioswale to collect the water and let it filter through, and then you see the outlet where they have a gravel line coming out of a pipe to flow on down, but this is just to make sure that any pollutants coming off that parking lot up there is filtered by just nature's way with soils and plants. And it kind of looks like this. You get your storm off, runoff, you've got your pooling zone, and then you've got some nice porous media, engineered soil before it to kind of retain it. And then once it retains long enough, then it discharges out that pipe. And so I want to talk the rest of my time on rain gardens because I really think Master Gardeners could play a great role in doing voluntary projects around your city or your town where we have some issues. And you can even do it at your home. I've got one I want to put in. The only thing to hold me back is time and money. But I don't know if anybody else has those problems, but certainly I do. But here's, you want to, this is from our friends at the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. They got a large grant from the state. to go in and put 100 rainwater gardens in Benton County. And they did an educational program. But you have your area where you're going to grow your plants. And you can make these where they slope to where your water level is going to be a certain level, and then change your vegetation from wetland, aquatic type, hydrophytic type vegetation to more upland. And so you just want to get it to where you've got porous media to hold that in for a while before it discharges. And these things don't have to stay ponded. The ponding level could be, you could put gravel on top of this, have your plants coming out of the gravel, and you might not, because in certain parts of the state and the country, in Arkansas especially, you have ponded water. What does that attract a lot of times? Mosquitoes. So you don't necessarily have to have your water where you could put gravel there and the gravel will also help filter. But you want porous media under that gravel to really do the major part of the focus. So they're designed to capture the first inch of rain and allow it to soak into the soil, water in the plants in the rain garden, and they usually are saucer shaped or whatever shape you want, but they've got to be kind of sloping the original soil surface. So you may have to dig out some and then put your engineered medium. We've got fact sheets on how to do these things. I don't have time to go through the details, but here we go. Yeah, I went the wrong way there. I tell you, I just feel like I can't operate anything without my glasses. But I want to be able to see y'all. So if I put my glasses on, then I can't see it. I hadn't figured out this holding it on the bottom of my nose and looking back and forth. So it's actually more aggravating to my wife than it is to me. But they protect streams and lakes from urban stormwater pollutants, including sediment, fertilizer, pesticides, auto fluids, metals. And so they're a good thing that helps our ecology function better. Increasing water infiltration, in many cases, some of these, the water will actually be held for a while until it can soak into the ground and make it to our groundwater. Reduces flooding and drainage problems in communities. I think with the creativity and the knowledge that I see sitting out in this audience, I know y'all can make these things beautiful. And people wouldn't even know that they're there to alter the hydrology and protect the environment. They would think it's simply there for the aesthetics. And I'm not saying every project that you do has to be concerned with this. What I'm saying is you have great potential to use the skills you have to make a difference for our environment. And this is just one they do. We like to do these at schools because students get out there and they help and they learn. And you can see this is at Happy Hollow Elementary School in Northwest Arkansas. This is at Walker Park. We have a stormwater management team there, and they do a lot of work. And this is in another park. This is one, I got a little grant to do one at our state office. We have this big warehouse that you see in the background there, and that's the Stevens Center, and there's a big parking lot there, and all that water drains off to a ditch and then into a bioswale. And ULR has, and I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but they have the responsibility over the bioswale, and I had to get permission from them. But we decided to put in part of a rain garden before we released it to that bioswale to treat the water, the runoff coming from that parking lot. And you can see we put in a retention wall, we put in porous media, we planted our plants, and you see it started to function very well. It would collect the water, and then we had drains at the bottom of that, and we lined it with gravel. So you see that gravel area down in the bioswale, that's where the water came out. But it held that water. Now it's really done too good. I did this with Janet Carson, and she's just too good at growing plants. And it's big, and it doesn't look the same, but we did notice that it was functioning very well, holding onto that water, and not causing the bioswale to flood as much. One reason that we've looked at this is there is science behind it. They have done studies on rain gardens out in North Carolina, and these green things are not trash cans. They hold water monitoring equipment. And so they're continuously monitoring the water quality of these rain gardens in places and looking at the effect that it has on stormwater. So we do have some data that shows that they are effective in these things. Now this is probably a more typical situation for a lot of y'all. This is somebody's home in their backyard, and this area always stays wet and flooded. Perfect place for a rain garden. And I'm sure, I don't know who, I got this picture from Janet Carson, so I'm sure Janet was involved in this in some way. But you can see they've kind of painted out the lines of where they want the rain garden. And then they started digging it out. And you want to arrange your plants by wetness zone. And so you may not want to plant right away. You may want to look and see how that thing is filling up and what the water level. And or dig your bottom of your rain garden in such a way that you have some stair steps or terraces. This is just another one. You want to leave room for plants to mature. I'm not telling you anything you don't know now. You guys know this better than me. And then this was at Leverett, the first one we ever put in an extension at Leverett Elementary, which is right on the border of the campus of the University of Arkansas Fayetteville. But look at this after 1 year. They planted all that runoff coming off the roof, and now they have this beautiful rain garden there where before it was just that water coming out of that gutter just had everything eroded, and it was just a mess. And this is just kind of a guide of making sure you select the right species. I'm not going to show this for very long. I have left this presentation with Gail, but I really encourage you to go to our website and look up things on rain gardens and rain barrels. I think that's where you'll find it. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of native species, especially from the standpoint of we need to help our pollinators. And stuff, and native species can help do that. So I'm becoming much more interested in native species. If anybody knows a good place to buy landscaping plants that are native species somewhere, I'd like to know, because you can't go to Lowe's and get a lot of native species. So I think that we have to start thinking in terms of, and one thing native species give you, you probably have better resistance to disease, insects, and I think we can find those that would work for us. And one thing about the native species is that they're going to put roots down in deeper depth. It's going to help open up that soil to get better drainage than some of our non-natives. And they won't have to be watered as often. Because sometimes you may have to water a rain garden if we go through a drought. But anyway, this is another example. You can put them in sun or shade. You just have to select your plants appropriately. And with that, I hope I haven't gone over my time, but I'll take any questions that y'all might have. Yes, ma'am?
What's your website?
It's www.uada.edu. Or it may be UAEX. I know our domain has changed to UADA. I've got it bookmarked, so I just go right to it. I'm not sure. But if you type in University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service in Google, it should take you there. And so, but I do think, this is important that we all, whether we're in big business, whatever, we have to start thinking about how we're altering the landscape and how we can mitigate that. And there's ways to do it. These rain gardens are a great way to fulfill two objectives at one time.
Mike, are you okay with us putting that slideshow on the website, a link to it at our Master Gardener Constant Contact, so people who want to download it can?
Let me tell you, that slide set was prepared by salary paid to me from state taxpayers. They own that slide set, not me. So you do whatever you want to. I've left it on the computer for you. I want y'all to have it. I should have been on the ball. I just got back late Tuesday night from Colorado. Should have been on the ball to bring fact sheets and pass them out. And if you still want that, I'll order some and get to you. I've got some questions over here.
Can you use this for gray water also?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No doubt about it. Be a great use for it.
Mike, would you repeat the question?
She asked if you could use it for gray water. Yes, you could. And I didn't put it in this talk, capturing rainwater to use for watering, and you can engineer rain barrels where you can fill one up, and as it fills up, then it dumps into the next one, so you can kind of daisy chain them to get more storage. The only thing I caution you about is that that's fine in Arkansas, but some states will not let you collect rainwater legally. Because they don't get enough rain they don't want people, Colorado is one for sure that will not let you collect, it's illegal to collect rainwater. But it's not in Arkansas. Yes, sir.
One of the problems I would see in having your ponds is that you need to have a real good soil analysis to make sure it's not a clay big bowl, which will not percolate water.
That's right, and in a lot of cases, sometimes we have to dig some of the clay out and then come back with an engineered soil, sand and organic matter and things that you can buy at a local landscape shop and mix together. And we have directions and recommendations on how to do that. But yes, part of the problem is some of these sites where it stays so wet, it's already because you got a heavy textured soil like clay and it doesn't allow for much infiltration. And so what we really want is for you to dig that out to have a space to hold that water. And then you may even have to engineer it to put a pipe to drain it on out of the rain garden. It may not infiltrate down, but you can do a perk test or something similar to a perk test where you dig a hole, fill it up with water, and just watch it how fast that water level drops. I wouldn't call it a perk test necessarily, but kind of getting that indication of the infiltration. Infiltration is highly variable. We don't talk about it much, but it's something we're even talking to our farmers now about is we can't continue to lose 50% of our rainwater to runoff. We've got to hold that water in place, use it for our crops, so that we don't keep lowering the groundwater in the state. I just changed the slides. Didn't mean to. I had another question over here that I didn't get to.
I was waiting for her.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
How can we share this message? You've done a great job sharing to us. Now, how can we share it?
I think if you find, do y'all do the whole chapter get together and do some volunteer projects?
No.
Well, I think that would be a great way if you went to a local park in your county and maybe work with them. And I'd be glad to help y'all try to find some grant money somewhere to pay for the materials and supplies. But I think if you could put a demonstration one in that people could come by and see, and then we had a sign up, is what we did at the state office that talks about why we're doing it, and that it's not just for beautification, it's for protecting our water resources. I think that'd be a great way. Yes, ma'am.
The City of Hot Springs and Park Avenue Community Association have put in rain gardens along the, the Park Avenue corridor, and it's been working, and they're great.
Yeah, I think testimonies like that is a great way to spread the news. But I want to see master gardeners build the confidence that they can, as they promote themselves as master gardeners, that we don't just say, well, we know how to deal with plants and soils, but we also know how to use those plant and soils to protect our environment. I think that's a natural extension of master gardeners, because most people do not have the expertise and experience that y'all have at putting plants and soils together. And that's really nature's way of filtering its water. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a master naturalist down here in the Diamond Lake region in Garland County. Specifically, the City of Hot Springs has a person that is part of the stormwater treatment. She will came into the master naturalist and show the big gardens on Park Avenue, and she will be very welcome if anybody, master naturalists, master gardeners, would be part of that project, taking on a great garden.
I think, and to answer your question, I think you helped answer that question. Getting involved locally to spread this message is the best way to make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank y'all so much. I find master gardeners to be the most involved, interested, and really interact with, and I really appreciate that. It's been a privilege to speak to y'all today. Thank you. Oh, we had it for years. We got the window replaced. We still had glass in it for several years. Oh, yeah, I couldn't. That's the only new vehicle we ever had, so I couldn't just get rid of it.
Okay, thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate that. All right, next up, we're going on into our business meeting, the officer reports. So Elaine with the minutes.
completed the last 2 sets of minutes. I'm behind a little bit. I'll get the executive meetings done and today's meeting minutes done and get them in the newsletter in the next few weeks.
Hey, Denise?
Am I on? Okay. So, did everybody get a chance to look at the reports? And do we have any questions? Okay, so just as a summary, as you can tell, the monthly cash report in our regular bank account, there's $72,517.98. I know that's a lot of money. I just hate to tell you guys this, so in our depository account, we have $7,593.60. So the total is $80,111.58. So I think, I probably made a mistake somewhere, so I'll go back and look. But, so just kind of, when you hear these numbers, just kind of keep in mind that there's still a lot of expenses coming in. We're just like halfway through this year. There's still things that you can turn into me for reimbursement. And then just keep in mind that we hold a large amount of money. How do we call that? The non-operating capital expense. So, for example, you'll hear about the scholarships, and that money hasn't come out yet. We'll need to pay the fair board for letting us have our plant sale out there. So that money hasn't come out yet. And then we put in a large amount right in there. We hold it in there for the detention center greenhouse learning center. So in other words, we don't insure that. But if something were to happen catastrophically, we would be able to rebuild that. So that's where, and we hold a lot of money. So also like the Coleus Fund. And so we'll talk about plant sale in a little bit. So when we finally get to the bottom number of that, then we'll take 10% of that, or thereabouts, and line that up for the Coleus Fund for next year. And we still need to pay out for Coleus Fund this year. And then we'll take another 10% of that, and we'll stick some more money for the detention center greenhouse. And then we'll take 20% of that, plus $4,000, and match that for our scholarship funds. So, like, there's, this money just ebbs and flows, don't get all excited. So, that's my story. I'm sticking to it for a while. Thank you.
Okay, our second VP, Susie, is out this month, so I'm just going to do a quick review of our membership today. We have 76 Master Gardeners here, and we have 5 guests, and when I call your name, if you would stand up and let us welcome you, please. Dana Taylor-Tipton. Laura Fincher, she's our new intern. Clayton Pipinger. John Davis. And April Bray. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. All right, Gail, you're up next.
Okay, 2 things I really wanted to mention to our Master Gardeners. The evaluation of our projects is due July 1. We told you earlier at a board meeting that we were creating an online form where you could click on it and fill it in automatically rather than handwriting your evaluations. And we've been working on it. Our first form did not work quite as well as we want, and we are revamping it. And we hope to have this out to you by early next week. So chairs, be expecting that online evaluation form. It is due July 1, but we're a little flexible. I will start calling you on July 1 just to remind you that it is due. We do want to get these in before our board meeting in July. Because another thing that is going to be very important at that board meeting, chairs, you have a budget for your project. And we will discuss at that board meeting if your budget is adequate for your project. If you don't know how much you've spent so far, you might check with Denise. She has the records that shows, how much you've turned in for reimbursement. You need to be considering if your budget is appropriate for your project. The second thing I wanted to bring up is we have formed an ad hoc committee, and if there are members who have a strong feeling and want to participate, you're welcome to stay after the meeting today and join us. The ad hoc committee is going to be looking at ordering plant plugs from Ball Seed. Do you remember our program in April on Ball Seeds? And they have a division that will sell to nonprofits, and you can order large quantities. These are shipments of like 180 plugs of a particular plant. But we're going to be discussing, we have 2 greenhouses that will probably be combining and figuring out what they want to order. And if there are some individuals who have home greenhouses who would like to order some for plant sale, and if you keep a few for yourself, that's okay if you're going to contribute to the plant sale. But if you wanted to participate in that order process, stay after the meeting because we're going to try to coordinate a little of that.
All right, thanks, Gail. Okay, next up would be Jody. She's also not here with us today, but she sent me a little note for the mentor report. She has 3 of our first-year Master Gardeners who've completed all their required hours, 3 who only need a few more education hours, and 6 who haven't entered anything yet. Okay, but she's notified them through email and working with them. A couple of them were technical issues, but we'll get those guys going pretty soon. And a reminder that Thursday, July 18th, will be the A to P, Annuals to Perennials program, and it's going to be in the evening this time, which is different, 6 p.m. on the 18th, and she hasn't found a location yet, so that's more info to be coming. All right. And also, our county agent is not with us today, so have a lot of notes here. First of all, he wanted me to introduce Laura, his intern for this year, which she has stepped out now. She's working at the extension office with him. She's attending Texas A&M. Oh, there you are. I lost you. I thought you had on a red shirt. Sorry. Laura is attending Texas A&M in Commerce, Texas, with a sustainable agriculture degree and a minor in horticulture. So she's already been to a lot of our events and projects, so she's learning a lot and bringing a lot to those events that she's going with Luke. All right, one last thing. Luke is doing another rain barrel presentation, demonstration at the family park on June 24th from 10 to 11 a.m. If you haven't been to one of those, he shows you how to create your own rain barrel to take home.
Say the date again, please.
June 24th, 10 to 11 a.m. at the family park, and that's right off Airport Road. All right, let's see, where are we? Okay, unfinished business. Last month, or our last meeting, we missed someone in our recognition process, so we want to backtrack and do that little recognition here real quickly. If Heidi and Debbie,
I don't think she's here.
oh, she's not?
She's not.
She's not here. Never mind, it was Caroline Suggs, as you can see in your agenda, so we'll have to do that at another time. But while we're on recognition, I want to do a quick little video here. These were presented at the state conference this past week.
Where's our sound?
Can you hear it? Okay, never mind. I won't do that.
I need to stop it. I need to stop it. Okay. Classic IT. We're gonna reboot. Okay. Because I had checked all of that and it worked earlier. Okay, let's just see what I'm saying. Okay, that's up.
Became reality in the Garland County Extension Teaching Garden was built on the detention center grounds. Former cooperative extension agent Alan Bates has aged every year in 2016, and now a retired master gardener developed a program to teach practical horticulture skills, which inmates could use to enrich their home life and help attain employment once released. Students attended classroom lessons, then went to the garden to apply what they learned. Extension horticulture trials were also incorporated into the garden's curriculum. The detainees submitted 20 entries into the 2018 Garland County Fair Horticulture Contest. All entries won ribbons, including a Best of Show. The Learning Greenhouse was another vision of Garland County Master Gardeners and Captain Cosgrove. Having seen a greenhouse program in another state, she knew one would expand her mission to give the detainees life skills. The Learning Greenhouse became a reality in 2019. Greenhouse funds came from Garland County Master Gardeners. The county funded land, water, and electricity. The greenhouse provided a place to grow plants for the annual plant sale and other Master Garden projects. In 2020, the pandemic halted all outside programs, and the teaching gardens were laid fallow. With Captain Cosgrove's permission, a small group of Master Gardeners grew produce for Project Hope Food Bank, donating 2,700 pounds over 3 years. Now, students are back at the greenhouse learning and working alongside Master Gardeners who are enriched by working alongside them. It is truly a win-win situation. Captain Cosgrove has received numerous calls from across the nation about the greenhouse partnership. Congratulations to Captain Belinda Cosgrove at the Garland County Greenhouse. Master Gardener of the Year for large programs is Judy Dare of Garland County. Judy Dare is a person who finds solutions rather than being stuck by problems. Since Judy joined the Master Gardener ranks in 2019, she reported 1,206 work hours and 145 education hours. Judy actively worked in 8 existing projects, initiated 2 new projects, is a member of 4 committees, collaborates with numerous community partners to expand Master Gardener efforts. Judy has worked on both unsanctioned and sanctioned projects and is a member of several policy committees. Starting her 2nd year, Judy became chair of the Know It to Grow It education program, a partnership with the Garland County Library. Pre-pandemic, 7 in-person sessions were held per year with the average of 60 attendees. When COVID forced the library to close, Judy and the library's program coordinator decided to move the program to a virtual platform. The program now resides on Facebook and YouTube and has logged over 2,500 views by the end of 2022. Judy hosted 21 virtual Know It to Grow It presentations. Judy inspired 14 Master Gardeners to develop and present sessions. Sharing Garland County Master Gardener events and information benefited the community. Another example of Judy's initiative is the Hope Garden Project, located at the Garland County Detention Center grounds. Due to COVID restrictions, this teaching garden for inmates would have lain fallow in 2020 when all outside activities for inmates had ceased. It seemed such a waste not to use it, not to plant the vegetable starters Master Gardeners had grown for their canceled plant sale, and instead to grow fresh produce for those in need. Judy brought together a group of more than a dozen state and local organizations to obtain donations for soil and seed. Judy led the building of an irrigation system using surplus parts when the help of a small group of master gardeners, over 2,700 pounds of produce was donated to Project Hope Food Bank for distribution to food pantries and meal providers. It is impossible to capture all Judy does for her community. The Garland County Master Gardeners are proud to claim her as one of their own. Congratulations to Judy Dare.
Sherry?
Yes.
We had the third winner in Garland County, which was as for the individual friend. That was played ahead of the business friend, but that's how we spend our time putting together programs for everybody to see. So it isn't just you, people here in Garland County, but anybody who came to the state to the state conference could see what's happening throughout the states when we give out the 18 awards. And that video showing all of those things is supposed to be on the website within a matter of a week or so, and then you can watch all of it again. Proceed. But that's how Triple R, the recruitment, recognition, and retention group spends their time at County 76.
Thanks, Hildy. All right, next up, plant sale and garden show, and again, Claudette is not here. So I just want to say it was a huge success, as you all know. We made a lot of money, we got a lot of good feedback, and Denise actually has the numbers as of today. Hold on a sec.
We like these numbers. Okay, so we had income from not only the actual plant sale, but also the vendors, and there were some sponsors, and we had the raffle, and we sold some compost, and we did all kinds of interesting things. So I have had some reimbursements paid out, so we're looking at right now, so far, the total of $31,410.
Well, we've been to the Russellville Conference, and I have to say I wasn't particularly excited. It's a small group, you know, how good could it be? And they don't have a conference center. It was in the high school, kind of, okay, I guess I better go. That was the best conference I have been to. It was creative. Yeah, it was the high school, a little difficult, but they made it the best of the situation. One of the tours showed us 4 rain barrels hooked together. Wonderful well, I really didn't do the speakers, I did the tours. But I did learn which wines to pair with desserts. You can learn a lot of things. So what I'm saying is we have some big shoes to fill. And we all voted and said, yes, we want to do it. So it's now time for all of us to volunteer. And I've got the sheets up there. So at this point, we need to finalize speakers. We need to finalize tours, the pre-conference tours. So it seems like it's a long way away, but it's time to get things going. So I want to thank Pam McCoy. Oh, and Elaine. For the announcement that we made to the other Master Gardeners that we are having the conference here. It was a fantastic job.
Now, first I'm kind of tired. You know, when we do those awards, we have to do pictures. I'm sucking my gut out the whole time. Finally get to breathe. So, next up is going to be the invitation to the 2024 Master Gardener Conference held in Garland County. So, they're getting ready to put on a great show for y'all.
We have got some very exciting news.
Cam and Elaine. Okay,
They
thank you.
recorded
Thank
it.
you.
They were.
All right, new business, scholarships. Diane, we're not gonna present them until next month, but Diane has some introductory stuff.
Well, I sure don't know how to follow that. But next month, we have the recipients from our scholarship that we're going to present them documentation. So I have a question, or I have an idea that I would like each of you to think about. First thing is, please come. It's July 20th. Okay. Now, my question is, when you were like 18, somewhere around that age, and somebody did something very nice to you, you did something, you earned an award, or maybe a little certificate or a little badge, and they said, well, come to the show, we want to present it to you, or the whatever it was about. And so you go, okay, yeah, I'll go. And then you got there, and you were all by yourself, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, what in the world am I doing here? Okay. I don't know anybody, just this person, maybe the teacher or someone that gave you this award, and they're going to bring you up and introduce you, and it's like, oh, what am I going to do? So, let's say someone that was part of the project came over and said, well, Mary, that was a really good idea that you had, and we're so glad to give you this award. Thank you so much for coming. Now that young person, 18 or so, is just going to light up. They're going to say, wow, somebody really understood and recognized what I was doing. So that's what I would like a few of you to do next month. We're going to have all the scholarship recipients, and I'm going to invite their parents, and last year we had a whole bunch of parents coming. So and we're going to have them have lunch in the lunchroom. So if you could stop by, introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Diane Harden, and I just want to congratulate you folks on the awards and their certificates that we're going to give you for scholarships. And I wish you the best of luck. If you could do that next month, they would really appreciate it. I just know their faces would light up, and they would appreciate the idea that the entire Master Gardener group would appreciate what they did and recognize how hard they worked, and that perhaps they're going to be future Master Gardeners in their own right. So that's the only thing I'm saying. Please come to the July 20th meeting and stop by and just say hi to those folks, especially if someone comes without any parents or something like that. So please remember it, and please come over and say hi to them. Thank you.
All right, next up then, County Fair. Pam Stevens is gonna, nope, Pam's not here. She didn't give me anything to say. Okay, Cheryl's gonna talk to us then about County Fair.
Yeah, y'all turn around.
Okay, there's just a few things. The name of the fair this year is sustainability, and we've got most of the tables filled already. Damon's Outdoor is going to be back with all of their equipment. Let's see, what else was it? Oh, the sign-up sheets are over here. We need a lot of volunteers this year. It was very difficult last year because we had times that we had to stay over. And
Give us the
dates. I don't know the dates.
September the 11th, well, they're on the top of the sheet.
Okay, they're on top of the sheets.
Wednesday, September 11th. Then we go to the 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th.
So the Saturday, the 9th will be set up.
Set up, prepared.
See, we should have done this.
Monday's the plan check-in.
Yeah, Monday's the check-in, of course, that's always the day. Tuesday's the judging, and then the rest of the week we'll need, and it starts at 4 o'clock and goes to 9. So, and it's every 2 hours.
2-hour increments.
Yes, 2-hour increments.
You got it.
Okay, I got it, that's it. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Is there a contest this year?
Yes, and it's scarecrows. Anything scarecrows, from your home or your surroundings, whatever.
I go.
Heidi said she would go. Okay, that's it then.
All right, we are on to our last new business item, the Coleus Fund. And again, Karen Grisham is not here to make this presentation. I hope you've had a chance to notice at the bottom there is a motion to be made at the end of this. Let's see. All right, so the Coleus Fund Committee has met and made these recommendations. There's $2,215.46 in the fund this year, and as you remember, that's 10% of the plant sale from last year. So that's where the money comes from. The committee has recommended that we purchase a stone bench for the Garland County Library, their new community garden. The bench costs $500, which is a huge discount that they, Bennett Brothers created the bench and gave us, that's less than half price. And they brought it out and set it up already, and it's beautiful. You'll have to go by and see it. There's also a plaque on the bench, and it says, generously provided by Master Gardeners of Garland County. It's got the University of Arkansas logo on it, as well as the Master Gardener logo. No, I don't know if you can see that very well, but, okay. So, we kind of got the cart before the horse there. We should have brought this to the committee before we actually did that part. But, due to the timing, and last month was the garden tours and all that, anyway, that part is done. So the $500 has been spent. The bench is gorgeous. Go by and see it. Now the second part they would like to, let me tell you one other thing. This is not part of the Coleus Fund, but the library has reserved 2 of their community garden raised beds for us, for Garland County Master Gardeners. So these 2 beds have plaques that read, dedicated to the Master Gardeners for their love of community, their library, and all the things that grow. And Ann Hayers is forming a group to plant and maintain these 2 beds. So if you're interested in helping with this group, see Ann and sign up with her. 1 bed has already been planted. That's not it. 1 bed's already been planted with a pollinator mixture, and she's considering doing companion planting in the 2nd bed. So if you want to work on that with her, please find her. I don't know if she's here today, but yeah, there she is. Talk to Ann after the meeting. All right, so then, moving on, for the remaining part of the money, which will be $1,715.46, The committee recommends that it be donated to the Hope Garden. And let's see. Okay. If you approve this funding, Judy Dare would be responsible for documenting and reporting back to the membership the usage of the donated money. And somewhere in here, I think we have a video for that too. I don't see it. Do we not have that one?
I just copied the Coleus thing. It would be on your jump
All right.
drive.
All right, no, we don't have that
Sorry.
video. Anyway, so let me go back. All right, so here are some of the items that they're planning to use this money for. Rebuild the two of the 3 raised beds, landscape fabric and pins, soil, seeds, fertilizers, safe insecticides, additional irrigation, signage, and then just a general spruce up for the 2024 convention tour. So with that, the motion is the Coleus Fund Committee presents a motion that the funds available be spent as described for a stone bench at the Garland County Library and for the Hope Garden. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries and is approved.
Since the bench has already been done and we're on the backside of that and we didn't vote, so why does that have to be part of the minutes, and is it just to have it on record?
Just have it documented in the, yes, because it's a done deal. And if you do not approve that part, I guess I could have said that part, I mean, that can always come out of our general fund. But we wanted to be a good partner with the library. So we just went ahead with that anyway. Any other questions? Yes?
Okay, I have a question. I cannot remember what the Coleus Fund was originally started for. So can you explain that?
Sure. The Coleus Fund basically is money we can set aside up to 10% of our net proceeds from the plant sale each year goes into this Coleus Fund. And that fund is used to basically give back to the community. We can do any sorts of projects that the committee comes up with as long as it gives back to the community. As in last year, we planted the orchard trees on the green belt. We put out a bench along the green trail walkway with some artwork. So things that just are give back to the community. Yes, Hildy.
I think the question was, what was the Coleus Fund to begin with, and how did it get started? And it started in veterinary with those who were around for the plant sale chair, when we were still at the farmer's market. We got the surprise amount of Coleus from Marilyn Parks. Those of you who remember Marilyn Parks, she had a greenhouse at Good Sam's, and she grew Coleus for a plant sale. And it was all set and ready to go, except they screwed up with the newspaper and the advertisements, and she had to get that Coleus out of that greenhouse that weekend or within a short period of time. And she says, I'm not throwing that Coleus away. I'm going to give that Coleus to the master gardeners for the master gardener sale. And it gave us roughly $1,000, all those Coleuses that were sold. And Beth at the time thought we should try to keep that thought process in place and do something with that money and not just put it in our general fund. And that was the beginning of the Coleus Fund. And the understanding was, we agreed 10% of the plant sale from the previous years is used for the community, and that's the Coleus Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.
procedurally how to do all the questions and answers. If that's satisfactory, do we still say this motion has carried?
Yes.
All right, done deal. So next up, announcements. We've got the plant swap, and I noticed several of you have plants, so I know that's been ongoing. The other thing is the Master Gardener survey that each one of us fills out each year. That will be coming out in July. I don't have a specific date yet, but it will show up in your email. So please be on the lookout for that in July. Our next meeting, July 20th. So put that on your calendar, and we will see you then. Thank you very much.